Imagine standing in a dense prehistoric forest 70 million years ago, surrounded by towering trees and the distant roars of dinosaurs. Suddenly, the ground trembles as a creature emerges from the shadows. But it's not a towering predator or a horned giant. Instead, it's something entirely different. This dinosaur's most dangerous weapon wasn't its claws or teeth, it was its head. Meet Pachycephalosaurus, the thick-skulled marvel of the Late Cretaceous. Think about Zinedine Zidane's iconic head slam during the 2006 World Cup final, an unforgettable moment that made sports history. Now imagine a dinosaur taking that concept to the extreme. Pachycephalosaurus was built to endure and deliver impacts that would put even today's toughest athletes to shame. But what made this dinosaur's skull so extraordinary? Was it really a headbutting champion, smashing its dome into rivals like a prehistoric battering ram? Or is there more to this creature than meets the eye? Today, we'll dive into the mysteries of Pachycephalosaurus, exploring its discovery, anatomy, behavior, and the world it called home. By the end, you'll see why this dinosaur remains one of the most fascinating creatures ever to roam the earth. The story of Pachycephalosaurus begins in one of the most famous fossil sites in the world, the Hell Creek Formation, a prehistoric treasure chest located across parts of Montana, South Dakota, and Wyoming. This region is like a time machine to the late Cretaceous, preserving the remains of dinosaurs like T-Rex and Triceratops, and of course, our thick-skulled friend. Back in the early 20th century, paleontologists began uncovering strange, dome-shaped fossils. Imagine finding something that looks like a massive, rounded piece of armor. At first, no one was sure what these fossils belonged to. Were they part of a shell? A bizarre skull? Something completely unknown? In 1943, paleontologist Barnum Brown, yes, the same Barnum Brown who famously discovered the first T-Rex skeleton, solved the mystery. He officially named this dinosaur Pachycephalosaurus, which translates to thick-headed lizard. The name couldn't be more appropriate. Its skull was unlike anything else, a dome of solid bone that could measure up to 25 centimeters thick. But Pachycephalosaurus wasn't alone in its thick-headed club. It belonged to a family of dinosaurs known as Pachycephalosauridae, which included other species like Stygimoloch and Dracorex. Or did it? Here's where the debate gets interesting. Some scientists argue that these so-called cousins weren't separate species at all, but were actually different growth stages of Pachycephalosaurus. If that's true, it means young Pachycephalosaurus started with flatter skulls that grew into domes as they matured. Even now, paleontologists are still debating. Was Pachycephalosaurus the only thick-headed dinosaur of its kind, or did it share its world with a family of dome-headed relatives? The fossils keep us guessing. Now, let's take a closer look at Pachycephalosaurus itself. This was no massive titan like T-Rex, but it was still an impressive creature. Measuring around 4 to 5 meters long, about the length of a modern-day car, and weighing up to 500 kilograms, it was a medium-sized herbivore built for survival. Pachycephalosaurus walked on 2 legs, and its long, powerful hind limbs suggest it was capable of moving quickly. Speed was likely its first line of defense against predators. Imagine this dinosaur darting through forests, using its agility to evade danger. But of course, we can't ignore its most famous feature, the dome-shaped skull. This wasn't just any skull. Beneath its smooth surface lay layers upon layers of dense bone, forming a structure that could absorb incredible amounts of force. Around the dome were small knobs and spikes, which may have made it look even more intimidating, almost like a living fortress. These features likely gave Pachycephalosaurus an extra layer of protection, making it harder to take down by larger predators. The size and shape of the dome are nothing short of remarkable. It wasn't simply a solid mass of bone. The dome was curved and reinforced in a way that suggests it was finely tuned for the stresses of impact. Whether it was used for combat or signaling, this structure wasn't built by chance. The skull could have helped the dinosaur withstand violent collisions or deter rivals through its sheer presence. In fact, some scientists believe the dome was a key factor in Pachycephalosaurus's success in its environment. Here's something fascinating: the internal structure of the dome isn't random. Studies of Pachycephalosaurus fossils reveal a lattice-like pattern inside the bone, almost like a natural shock absorber. This design would have helped distribute the force of impacts, reducing the risk of serious injury. With a structure like that, Pachycephalosaurus was built to endure headbutts that would have left most animals in pieces. Interestingly, despite its fearsome dome, Pachycephalosaurus wasn't a predator. Its teeth were small and leaf-shaped, perfect for slicing through tough plant material. Scientists believe it fed on a diet of fruits, seeds, and fibrous vegetation. Think of it as a mid-level herbivore, nibbling on plants that larger dinosaurs couldn't reach, carefully foraging for food in a world filled with much larger, dangerous creatures. Let's talk about behavior. For decades, the go-to theory was that Pachycephalosaurus used its skull for head-to-head combat, like modern-day ramming animals such as bighorn sheep. The idea was simple: two rivals would charge at each other, crashing their domes together in battles for dominance. At first glance, this theory seems to make perfect sense. After all, the dome is built like a battering ram, and its position on the skull suggests it could take a direct hit. But there's a twist: fossil evidence doesn't fully support this idea. If Pachycephalosaurus was constantly smashing its head into others, we'd expect to see signs of wear and tear, fractures, scars, or healed injuries. Yet these are surprisingly rare. This has led scientists to explore alternative theories. One intriguing idea is that Pachycephalosaurus didn't engage in head-to-head combat but used its dome for flank butting, targeting the sides of rivals rather than their skulls. This would have been less risky and could still assert dominance without causing major injuries. Another theory is that the dome wasn't primarily for combat at all. Instead, it may have been a visual display, like the antlers of a deer or the feathers of a peacock. In this scenario, Pachycephalosaurus would use its dome to intimidate rivals or attract mates, relying more on its appearance than brute force. And then there's pop culture. Movies like The Lost World, Jurassic Park took the headbutting idea to extremes, showing Pachycephalosaurus smashing through cars and walls. While entertaining, these depictions are more fiction than fact. To truly understand Pachycephalosaurus, we need to explore the world it lived in. Welcome to the Late Cretaceous, a time when North America was split by a vast inland sea. This was a land of lush forests, sprawling plains, and thriving rivers, a paradise for dinosaurs. Pachycephalosaurus shared its home with some of the most iconic dinosaurs in history, including Tyrannosaurus rex, Triceratops, and Ankylosaurus. It was a world of constant danger, where herbivores had to be on high alert for predators lurking in the shadows. But Pachycephalosaurus was well adapted to its environment. Its agility allowed it to navigate dense forests with ease, while its diet ensured it could thrive in areas where competition for food was fierce. Dense vegetation not only provided food but also offered protection, giving it places to hide from predators. Despite its seemingly peaceful lifestyle, life in the Late Cretaceous was no walk in the park. Predators like T-Rex were always a threat, and Pachycephalosaurus likely relied on both its speed and its skull to stay safe. Even today, Pachycephalosaurus remains one of the most intriguing dinosaurs ever discovered. Its thick skull raises as many questions as it answers, sparking debates about its behavior and evolution. Was it a head-butting gladiator, a flank-butting strategist, or simply a show-off with a flashy dome? Whatever the truth, there's no denying its impact. Pachycephalosaurus captures our imaginations, reminding us that dinosaurs were as diverse and fascinating as the ecosystems they inhabited. So, what do you think? Was Pachycephalosaurus truly the king of headbutting, or did its domes serve a different purpose? Let us know your theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this dive into the past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more dinosaur discoveries. Until next time, Let's keep exploring the mysteries of history together.